If you go back as far as like the Wolfman Jack days, now that was
Right?
really, nobody even knew what that guy looked like. There's no video. There was no,
No.
you might see him in a newspaper article or something once in a while, and rarely would there be a photo of a radio DJ. So that guy was just a voice in the night or a voice in the morning, or then you found out that was a real person. And all of a sudden, people probably started flooding the radio stations. And then past that, like you said, the band's going to be there. Oh my
Yep.
God, Def Leppard's going to be at such and such
Yep.
studio. Smith, the Rolling Stones, they're going to go talk
Yep.
to whoever.
Yep.
So then it became a building with no windows and a big tower.
I remember in Dave Pratt's heyday, he was going down the I-10 with Tommy Lee from Motley Crue in a bulldozer, because somehow Tommy convinced a construction worker to give him a bulldozer, and they're driving down the I-10 towards well, it's PIR now. What the hell was that? Compton Terrace, driving towards Compton Terrace in a bulldozer. Him and Pratt in a bulldozer.
That's where I saw White Zombie.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
But that kind of shit, that's the allure of disc jockeys. That's the thing that, these guys had. They had
when I moved to Phoenix, he was the man.
Heroes. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and still is. I mean, to me, it's just a different era.
It is.
You can't, just like you said when we were kids and we went to a concert, you can't recreate that for these kids now today, because there's too much exposure of every band that they like, and there's just not that era of mystique that there was back then.
Crazy thing about disc jockeys, man, they had that. And the same thing with, I remember when I had, when I worked for SeaWorld, there was a SeaWorld office out in Arizona, and I was dressed up as Shamu. So in the late 80s, 88 to probably 90, I was in college, in high school, so 87 to 89, any commercial you saw on TV with Shamu, the Mickey Mouse Disneyland character, yeah. Shamu, that was me. And then we did it with Dave Muncy, because Dave Muncy had this whole summer of supervision spiel he did every summer. I
remember that name too.
Watch Your Kids Run Right. So when I met Dave Muncy, when we were in the house, because it was just filmed in the backyard of the pool, it's kind of like, you're Dave Muncy. Even though I was never one of those aw shucks kind of people, like I never was, aw shucks, you're Dave Muncy, holy shit, Oh.
Yeah, I'm not going to faint or anything, but everybody has that moment of, wow,
right.
That guy's really standing in front of me.
Right. So, and really it wasn't even that, because really I've never seen somebody on TV, and then when I see him in person, like, it's like I met Steve-O, and it's like, what's up, man? There was nothing, he was more intrigued with who I was, why I was at Our Heart Studio, than I was who he was and why he was there.
They're just people.
Now, when I met Jeff Schwartz, the center for the Giants, the 2 eras with Eli, that was fun because of the size difference.
Right.
Like that, we ran into each other in the hallway, and me being a dumbass, I'm like, can you get any taller? And he kind of looks down and he kind of chuckled, and he reaches out, hey, I'm Jeff. I was like, hey, I'm Chris. I'm like, what are you doing here? He goes, I was on the Fox Sports show. Oh, I was like, right on, I run my own show, and we had a little banter. And then Steve Giannini is like, why don't you guys take a picture? I said, that'd be fun. Let's go into your studio and do it. That's the picture I have with his elbow on my head.
Oh yeah, that's a good shot, man.
Right. And that's just, but that's like, I got my suit. I had a suit getting fixed one day, and I was at Brothers Tailoring in downtown Phoenix, and I walk in to pick it up, and Tom Chambers is there, the 6'11" center for the Suns, who's pretty famous.
Him at Marley's place. Yeah, he's huge.
pretty famous guy in Phoenix. And so there's a dressing table that's probably 4 feet high, and he was sitting on it. Okay. His ass was on the table, and his legs were bent, and his feet were on the ground, 4 feet tall. So I'm come up to like his like between his chest and his belly button, just from that aspect. So, and I knew who he was. I recognized him. I'm like, they can't find you a chair, huh? And he chuckled. And I was like, hey, I follow the Suns. Nice, I don't remember what I said, but it wasn't like, oh, can I have an autograph, Tom Chambers? I just, he's like, what are you here for? I said, I'm getting a suit fixed. I said, obviously you're doing something with the suit. And we kind of chuckled, but